everybody. Welcome to another episode of Berklee Alumni's Pass the Mic, where we pass the mic to you. I'm Jaquel Illy, and we are recording live from Berklee, NYC at Power Station.
And I am Patrick Pharma, a very cosmopolitan New York Patrick Pharma today.
Ooh.
I was walking down 10th Avenue in a vegan leather jacket.
Wow.
Very exciting. And we also are here for the New York Alumni Brunch, which is tomorrow. So we're doing all that cool stuff in New York and hopefully some more stuff down the way. We have a kind of a theme show today. During the pre-orientation week at Berklee for the students, we interviewed an alumni panel that was working with the SOMOS Latinx program. Jaquel, I bet you don't know this, but I interviewed someone from the SOMOS Latinx program so we could learn more about it.
What? No way.
Would you like to hear it?
Please. What happened? Tell me about it.
Well, I'll just let it speak for itself. And here we are with Ty-Juana Flores, who's the director of identity-based programs for student success.
Hello.
Did I get that right?
You sure did.
Okay, great. Ty-Juana and I spoke this summer when the alumni for the SOMOS Latinx panel were coming in. So, Ty-Juana, can you give us a little background about what the SOMOS Latinx program is?
Absolutely. So from a programs retention, student experience perspective, we did research over time where we learned that there was a significant enrollment of Latin, Hispanic, domestic, and international students at Berklee. We also noticed that the performing arts culture is an essential part of Berklee, as most of us know, the arts ecosystem and the world culture in general. The biggest thing I'll say is that Hispanic and Latinx creatives have made numerous contributions to theater, music, and dance within North America. And the other part is that departments and divisions at Berklee have created essential programs like the Latin Music Studies, Berklee Latino, as part of Berklee's contribution to the arts. And I'm going to get to the why, but I think it's important to kind of lay the foundation here.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the other part is that the current retention and graduation rates of Latin and Hispanic students lag when compared to their white peers. So, when we were thinking about, and I specifically mean student success programs and services, when we thought to launch SOMOS Latinx, we wanted to enable students to graduate at a higher rate with less debt, right? And we do that by creating support and resources for them to be proactive in robust ways and help them to prepare for unanticipated challenges in college. Another way the reason why we launched SOMOS Latinx was support students to have a high quality, engaging experience. This cohort of students, we wanted to ensure that they had access to staff before they started their first semester at college, and then continue supporting them throughout the year. And then really just to prepare students for purposeful, successful, sustainable careers. So, we launched SOMOS Latinx. It was a big drive, right? It was a brainchild of mine and other colleagues who were like, we have to do this. So we launched in August 2023 with a pre-orientation program for approximately 62 students. And it's been extremely nice to see this foundational piece being embedded in Berklee's services.
What has it been like when alumni come back to visit the students in the program?
Well, this is our first time bringing back Hispanic, Latinx students literally before the start of the semester. So if you are familiar with the Black Scholars Initiative, we've been running that program for several years and we've brought alumni back. So we said, why not bring back Latin, Hispanic alumni who can speak to these students and talk about their journey in a very informal way, but an important, time and space where we're talk to these folks, understand their journey, because there's a lot of intersectionalities between both worlds. So, and I will say, predating SOMOS Latinx, there has been a lot of heavy work done from staff and administrators of Latinx descent who have created these spaces and have centered alumni in various different ways. But I think it's really awesome now. There's an institutional commitment. It's now not staff and faculty running around trying to support students. That's going to happen naturally. But through SOMOS Latinx, we're building a foundation through the institution and making sure that we can successfully see our students through.
So people that support these types of programs through contributions to Berklee, what are they contributing to?
They are contributing to shifting the narrative for our Latinx and Hispanic population students. They are contributing to seeing students through from start to finish. That has historically been of concern for our students of color. And they are contributing to the next generation of performing artists. And more of our Latinx, Hispanic, Latin students they're in the field. It historically has been a journey to navigate Berklee. And, if you are giving to SOMOS Latinx, you're giving to the future and our students' journey. Okay,
well, I said I was going to ask you this question up front, but then I got so excited to talk about SOMOS Latinx that I didn't get into it. So, Ty-Juana Flores, will you tell us about your Berklee origin story?
Oh, wow.
How did you get started here? What have you been up to? I mean, I've been here almost 6 years.
Yeah.
And I've seen you the entire time. So
yeah.
So what's up with that?
So I'm a dinosaur at Berklee. I have been at Berklee for a little over 11 years. I've served in various roles, from the provost office to the office of the president to liberal arts to Africana studies and now student success and programs. So I've been able to navigate Berklee in a way that works for me, and I love it. And I find that now that I'm in student success, it's very student-centric. It's very, support-driven. It's very community-building-driven. So that's kind of like my Berklee journey. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I've always been in Alumni Affairs. So it's great when you get to work with the students because you really get to see what we're all doing together,
And I love some of the alumni still reach out to me, and it's so great. Like the feedback has been, Miss Flores, I'm working with, such and such, and Miss Flores, I'm really excited, and I couldn't have done Berklee without BSI. It's that kind of stuff that keeps me going, keeps the program going, and keeps it as an institutional priority.
Yeah,
these programs.
Yeah, and now you get to do it with a whole new cohort and help spread the success.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ty-Juana, thank you very much for your time. I told you it'd be 5 minutes, but we hit 9 minutes. So time flies when you're talking with me. All right. Thanks.
Sounds good.
Okay, so last episode, we mentioned to you all that unfortunately, I won't be doing the interview for this episode. But boss, who do we have for this episode?
So for this episode, our guest interviewer is Magdalena Abrego, who used to work in the alumni office, and now she is in New York doing a ton of really interesting music projects, doing sessions. Magdalena and I did some voiceovers for some Alumni Achievement Award stuff in the past, and we were just general great pals. For this SOMOS interview, I thought it would be great to have another alum kind of lead the conversation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Magdalena Abrego. I use she, her pronouns, and my family is from Mexico and Puerto Rico. I grew up in Chicago, but now I am based in New York. I am a guitarist, composer, and teaching artist, and Berklee alumna. I came here for my performance degree and graduated in 2015. So I'd love to hear from each of you if you want to introduce yourself briefly.
Well, yeah. My name is Isaac Matus. I'm from Bogota, Colombia. I started in Berklee in 2013 and graduated 2018. I did contemporary writing and production and electronic production and design. And yeah, I live in New York City. I work as a sound designer and a music producer, mainly electronic producer.
Hello, my name is Nella. I'm from Margarita Island in Venezuela. And I came to Berklee in 2011 and graduated in 2015. I stayed here for a little bit after that. And then I moved to the closest city that I wanted to go to, which was New York. I've been there since then. And I'm a singer. And I've been working on my music, recording albums, and performing since I got to the U.S., actually.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Bosh. I'm from Puerto Rico, and my mother is from Venezuela, and my grandma's from Cuba, so there's a little bit of a mix there. I came to Boston in the year 2008, straight out of PR, and in 2013 I graduated. After that, I moved to New York City as well. Lived there several years and started performing and playing, and I graduated Berklee out of the jazz composition department. And so yeah, same as Nella, I've been producing my own albums as well as collaborating with other great artists from New York City and abroad. Yeah, that's about it.
I want to start way back when with a throwback question to kick off our conversation. Take me back to your first semester at Berklee. What were you listening to? How were you spending your days? Like, what was going through your mind at that time?
I was listening to a lot of Colombian music back then. Some like fusion jazz, the Berklee Mosquito, I guess. And what was going through my mind? New city, excited to meet new people, to like a lot of curiosity to see where this whole journey was gonna take me. Not gonna lie, seasonal depression did kick shortly after I moved. The winter, all that stuff, like going dark at 4 p.m. It wasn't something that I was used to, but seasonal happiness, I guess. When the summer came, that was
seasonal
nice.
Happiness. I love that.
That's fair. Boston winter does not mess around. I remember when I came to Berklee, so many of the people that I met were buying like sweaters for the first time, or like parkas for the first time, or pants for the first time. How about you, Nella?
Actually, my first semester was summer, so that was great. The weather, it was very hot, but I come from an island, so I was okay with that. And I thought I was going to be the next Christina Aguilera. That was me. I was like, yes, that's what I'm going to do because, I know. I even I was obsessed. I wore green eye contacts for years.
Wow, that's
back in Venezuela.
Wow.
Yeah, thank God I got here and somebody was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you look like a snake or something. But no, when I moved here, remember, that's where I grew up singing. I was singing like Celine Dion, Mariah Carey, and all of this. And then when I got here and I heard people singing that kind of music way better than me. And also, not only that, it was just like, I saw like people with a connection with music that I don't think I had, because I didn't even sing in Spanish, which was weird. But then it was here when I kind of like got, and even in that semester, I felt like a connection with the music from my country. It wasn't that I was going to start singing traditional music from Venezuela, but there was something there that I never experienced before. And it was a lot of curiosity, as Isaac said, seeing my peers and learning from them. And it was because of that I started to get closer to my roots, which I think is the most important thing that happened to me at Berklee. And I think it happens to a lot of people here. I mean, of course, it happened during the rest of my career, but the first semester, that was like the first thing that I was like, oh, shoot, this is different. I never felt this way before. So it was a great discovery for me since the beginning.
Yeah, it seems almost very similar to my story, except for the summer part. That would have been great.
It was great.
That wouldn't have been as much of a culture shock. Yeah. But also come from an island, so surely coming here in the fall semester, winter semester, straight out of a tropical 90-degree weather is quite a change. And Boston is, New York is cold, but Boston is cold. And so, yeah, it was great. I think what I was listening to at the time, I was very big on jazz music, and I wasn't even singing. I wasn't a singer. I was just a flute player. And I wasn't a composer either. That's why I chose composition at Berklee, because I felt that since I was 13 years old, I was already playing professionally in Puerto Rico. So I had already gained a little bit of ground playing and performing, but I knew that my weakness, I was very weak as a composer. So I need to get some strength and some info and some feedback and some, obviously a whole major to help me in that area, because I wanted to have that kind of tool. So in terms of listening, I was very much into the usual jazz records that are very important, like Dexter Gordon and Sonny Stitt and Freddie Hubbard, Miles Davis, Coltrane, etc. And so, yeah, that was about the material that I was listening to. And yeah, that first semester, I think the one silver lining in the middle of all that change was living with my best friend from Puerto Rico who played saxophone and who came here a semester before me. So he had already kind of laid the ground for finding an apartment so that we could be roommates. And we were living in a bunk bed, believe it or not.
Wow.
One
So like
room.
best friends with a capital B.
We were paying, listen to this. So, and this is not the 1970s. There's $250 rent. That was our rent. And we were living in a little bunk bed, a red bunk bed that we found on Craigslist. And we rented a car to go pick it up. It was fun times. It was absolutely wonderful living with him, because we were able to share with each other the different ideas musically that we were exploring. So it was actually a wonderful time.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I want to return to something that you said, Nella, about returning to your roots when getting here to Berklee. It's a common thread that not only I experienced, but also that I hear from other students. And I think it's really interesting because when you get to Berklee, it's a campus known for its diversity. You have people from all over the world. There is a variety of genre, a variety of music making and music methodologies once you get here. What do you think promoted you to return to your roots, like return to the music that you started with? Like, it sounds like maybe that was true for multiple people at the table right now. Like, why not, I don't know, completely abandon the music of the place you came from and try something totally new? Like, tell me a little bit more about that for anyone that resonates with.
Well, for me, it was, there was something, I was obsessed with my instrument. Like, I was very technical about it. Like, I loved how you could do so many things with your vocal cords. That's why I was obsessed with Mariah Carey, Celine Dion, Whitney Houston, because I was just like, oh my God, how can they do all of these things? And for me, it was more like about the technical stuff. But I think that made me forget about connection and interpretation. And of course, singing in my language, already there is a huge undeniable connection. And being able to express that with my language, I think it was just very obvious. And I just never had that connection before. For me, it was kind of like magical. And it was because of a Venezuelan song that everything happened, La Negratilia, that actually a guy from here, from North America, he showed me that song. He's like, oh, you're Venezuelan. You must know this song. It's from there. And I was like, yeah, sure. I didn't. And I had to go sing it to this recital. And it's a song very difficult because it was written for mandolin. And the melody was very intricate, and the lyrics, just by coincidence, they talked about the island that I'm from. So it was kind of like a beautiful and magical story that it was like a before and after in my career and life. And after I sang that song, something connected, and something that I could see people from Cuba when they used to sing, when I could see them, singing their music, or people, I don't know, from New Orleans singing their music. Like, there was just like a connection that I felt like I was missing, that I was like, okay, I feel like I can sing, but I don't feel this is honest. And when I started singing my music from my country, again, I don't do traditional music from Venezuela, but there is something there that clicked for me. And I could see how people were connecting with me and getting inspired. And that was it. And I think maybe it had to do with, I don't know, with being nostalgic, immigrating. Venezuela, as a country, has a very difficult situation, and a lot of people have left. So I think for me, all of that made sense. And I think people can feel that. So for me, it was more about that, about the honesty when I was singing and the connection with my language. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think my experience and my relationship with like Colombian music and instruments was kind of a in between, like a middle point between what a lot of people experience when they come here and like, knowing some of it before coming, because I basically started to get into playing some instruments and like some music from like traditional music from Colombia shortly before I moved to Boston. And it wasn't really anything that I thought about, like, I'm going to learn it to bring it there. Just like if it happened to like fall on my life at the time, like classes and whatnot. And so I started to become interested. But, parallelly, I like was applying to Berklee. So I came here as a guitar player. That was like my main instrument. And I brought some of these like instruments, particularly gaita, it's like a flute, traditional flute. And I brought it to be like, I'm just bringing it to see what happens there. But then when I arrived here, something similar happened to me, like what Nella was mentioning. And like, I got here and there's like 10 million guitar players, and then, they all been studying the blues all their life, and everything. So I was like, okay, that's a long line, but the gaita, it's like and these other things are different. And I have a vivid memory of like these guys, they were playing like Middle Eastern percussion, like darbuka and like other stuff. Daniel Feldman and Ali, like Turkish and Mexican guys. They were playing in the street, like it was still warm outside, and I had my gaita, my flute. So I was like, oh, join them a little bit. And it was like a interesting like click, cross-cultural click that we did. And it kind of, I don't know, inspired me to be like, okay, I'm here now. And I have obviously all these resources to learn about like jazz and jazz harmony and like music technology and all that stuff. But I also have this other stuff that I have to dig on my own, because there's not really anybody that can teach me that here. But in a way that kind of gave me a particular approach to that, like learning the tradition online or like with books, however I could, but without like necessarily a mentor, a maestro, like right there, just like on my own, but also applying some of the things that I was learning here, and, little by little starting to create like what my voice was, going to become, which I think is still a process, of building my voice for a lot of people. I think it is a long journey. So yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think just to piggyback on that, on what you just mentioned about the journey, I think there's a process of artistic maturity that takes place wherein we might romanticize whatever is exotic in our eyes, and we value it more than what is authentic from where we're from. If you're an American Caucasian, you might find Puerto Rico or Venezuela or Margarita pretty exotic. But if you're from the island, I live where you vacation, then jazz music is extremely exotic to me, or European. But once you dive into that ocean, and once you go into that path and you explore all of it and you obsess over it and you practice it all, there is a point in which, after developing certain spiritual and musical maturity, you realize that the only way that you can truly do this, not only music thing, but dare I say, artistic thing in every discipline, how can I ever be authentic without being truly authentic culturally, sociologically, and what's more authentic than actually sharing my story? There's nobody that has my story. That's why it belongs to me, Nella and Isaac. And when you realize that in your artistic path, you realize, man, it's cool to go through that age in your life, in that stage in which you think that the grass is greener, sort of, in the other side. But after a while, you start realizing that the true beauty is in coming back home. And I believe that music, for many of us, has been that train that brought us back home in a certain sense. And finding that authenticity in our voices has been a true blessing. I hope everybody goes through that, especially young people listening to this podcast, that they have the privilege to go through that at a certain point in their life, and that music can serve as a vehicle to allow them to find that.
Yeah, thank you for time traveling with me for a moment and introducing me to your Berklee freshman selves. Let's go back to current times. I would love to hear from each of you about the last musical project that you worked on that really felt exciting and creatively fulfilling to you.
Let's see. Well, within my journey, that's still, in process. When I was studying here, I got into I was doing a lot of arranging, and then I started doing electronic production and design, the major, and that got me a lot into synthesis and little by little electronic music, and but I still had all these other, familiarity with Latin American music and Colombian music specifically. So recently, a few years back, I started playing with synthesizers, specifically modular synthesizers and electronic systems. So I've been building up a live set, a one-man type thing, with drum machines and samples and synths. So, and it's recently I went back to Colombia after not being there for a while, and I brought all my stuff, played a few gigs, did a few recordings, and it was nice to bring it back there, because I hadn't really performed there in a while, and definitely not in this new stage or this new phase of my musical exploration, if you will. So, it's something that is very freeing to me, because it's a 1 hour long live set, and there's some material that I go through with this live set. It's the path that I use to move between all this material is different every time. So it's kind of like jazz in a way. You have a lead, you have the tune, but every single time that you play it, it's going to be different, and it's going to be informed by the energy of the space where you're playing, how the crowd is reacting to it, what you had for lunch that day, how many hours of sleep you had, right. All the stuff. So and knowing that it's, for me at least, it's never going to be a perfect thing, because it's always going to be a little detour here, another detour there. It's freeing, it's very liberating in a way, because you're just enjoying what you're doing. You're not thinking, oh, if I don't do this change right here in this bar, then the whole thing falls apart. No, it's just playing with it, having fun, and then go through the journey differently every single time.
Yeah, I agree. I think I love that, Isaac, the concept of the joy of the journey, which is we're so goal oriented, aren't we? And we're so goal driven, and we obsess at times to a fault about goals, about achieving things. And yet we sometimes miss the real joy that goes along the production and the making of something wonderful. And that's how I feel right now. In October right now, I'm releasing my new record. So you ask, what's been the most recent? That was a question, right? The most recent project. I think the most exciting thing has been to finally release this album. It's been almost 8 years in the making. So if somebody's discouraged because they've been working on something for 6 months, don't worry about it.
That's some serious patience.
Yeah, of course. And it's been many transformations along the catalog and along the repertoire in that album. But I'm very excited about that, because this is the first time that I'm actually truly satisfied with a project. I don't really care at this point if it becomes successful in terms of numbers. And to me, I'm so satisfied with the fact that we really got it to sound exactly how we want it. And I say we because I'm just the guy in front. It's really something that was made by a collective and by my friends who worked 10 times harder than me, dare I say. So I would say that, that album is truly a joy. And it lasted that long because I used to be with a different company that used to represent me. And when I showed them the project, they also worked as sort of my A&Rs. So they were like, this project is so deep in terms of salsa music. Like there's no other record in salsa music, tropical music that has ever sounded like this. So we're a little bit scared that people might not know the context. So instead of just dropping this and it not affect anybody, let's just go back. And then we had the idea of going past, present, future. So we went with the preface, the music of Cheo Feliciano live at Lincoln Center. Then we went with the prologue, Hoy. It's called prologue. Hoy means today in Spanish. And it was the preface was a live setting with a sextet with vibraphone and homage to Cheo Feliciano and the music specifically of the 70s with Joe Cuba live, suit and tie, black and white, the whole thing very, very 70s. And then the prologue was, a project that it was all my compositions. That's where jazz really came in handy because I did all the arrangements, the orchestral, everything, the strings, and it was beautiful. But this project is the opposite of that one because that one was very rich, very lush in terms of the arrangements, in terms of the changes, a lot of influence from Brazil, compositionally, harmonically. But then this one is the opposite. This one is a minimalist album in which we took out most of the important elements of salsa, and somehow we managed to still make it sound like salsa music. And I always say to people, imagine if Kanye or Drake or Rihanna produced a salsa album. That's exactly how it's going to sound, with a lot of those elements, with 808s and different elements that salsa music usually don't have. Yeah, so this album is actually the latest project that has me the most excited, just to answer your question.
Yeah, I actually was very lucky to hear some of those songs, and you have no idea. It's amazing. It's amazing. I don't know if I can say that, but you always said that it was kind of like futuristic salsa. That's how it sounds. Wow. I think it's a great adjective.
Consider me curious.
Yeah. Same. October, everybody. For me, actually, we're kind of like in the similar path. I was very lucky to I released my first album, Voy, in 2019, and that was a great year for me. Many beautiful things happened thanks to that album. And then that album was kind of like how can I say that? It was my first album, so it was kind of like introduction of my voice, to say like something like that, with the producer I was working with. That was kind of like the goal. Let's introduce your voice to the world. So we weren't even thinking about, which I think that's how it should always be, the creation process. You shouldn't come from like, well, this song we're going to make it because it's going to get a Grammy, or we're going to make this song. So it's the secret, to not think about it. So, or I'm going to create this song because I want it to be number one at the Billboard or something like that. I think people are not stupid and they notice when you do something like that. And that album, I remember, it was kind of like, a song that lasted 7 minutes, a song that didn't have a chorus, a song, like not thinking about formulas, I guess. And I think that was very special. So that was like the first album. The second album was during pandemic, so it was a little crazy, but we made it. And now after those two albums, it took me like 2 years to kind of like, okay, what do I want to do now? Because there's also the pressure, of course, that we all know of nowadays. You have always to be, updating, how do you say, like, vigente?
Relevant.
Relevant. And it's on social media, on numbers, and release a song if you can daily. And I post something every 3 hours. Dude, we're almost there.
AI.
So somebody who tells you that any artist that says it doesn't feel pressure, at least a little bit, it's a lie. Because you do. Even though you're trying not to, there is always something that is like, you just open Instagram and immediately you're like, oh, this person is working on this and I'm laying on bed. So it's very good what you said about, it took you 8 years, and what I've heard is like pure gold. So I think, like just be patient with what you're doing and trust more the process, enjoy the process. This album has been for me, it didn't take me 2 years. Like it's not like I started working on it in 2 years, but I did work on my processing on what I wanted to say this time. Like I wasn't like, okay, let's release another album because Sony is asking me to release something. Or I was like, no, you know what? I don't know what I want right now. Actually, I'm going through a lot, not only musically, but not with the same manager, not with the same producer, and that's like a divorce, And I've never been divorced, but it's a lot. So what I'm saying is like, when I was ready, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I don't know if it's going to be what people want to hear or like if my, older fans want to hear, but this is how I feel now. And I think that's a beautiful thing of artists with albums, releasing albums. You can see where they were at that moment, And yeah, it's up to us to share, that personal part with the world. And I decided to. So yeah, I'm working on, I actually finished maybe like 2 days ago.
Wow.
Nice.
My
Congrats.
third album. Still working on the tweaks. I don't think it's going to be out until next year. So you can listen to Jeremy's while you wait for mine.
Single coming out next week.
Next week.
Next week.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thursday, yeah.
Oh,
okay.
hey-o.
Say
That's
the
what
date.
you just heard.
Say
Sorry,
the
I
date.
had to post something really important because it's a piece for that single.
Right.
And then that's on Thursday. And then on Friday, we have to release another single.
Yeah.
That was a very sneaky.
And the
Sneak
TikTok
us in the
dance.
eye. Yeah.
You have the dance for the
Yeah.
TikTok, right? Already.
yeah.
You need it.
my
You need
God.
it.
Goodness. Yeah, it's kind of like.
We'll make a dance after this.
Yeah.
After we're done.
Can I ask you a question? Is there a message that you want to send through this album, if there was, without giving too much away from the movie?
Yeah. I don't know how much I can say because I don't want to spoil it. But I don't
If it
know.
spoils it, don't say nothing.
Yeah, I would say that this is more me. It's not the other albums weren't. It was just like, I feel it was more like a collaboration with the producer I was working at the moment, Javier Limon. And this one, for the first time, I feel like I'm more involved in everything.
Oh, okay.
So production wise, and the creation of everything. And oh my God, I have enjoyed this process so much in the studio every day, working on every song and knowing every detail, which before it wasn't like that. The process was different. So that already for me is, that's my Grammy, So, but yeah, that's all I can say. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you'll have to wait and listen. I think what I'm hearing from all of you is this sense that you've reached a place in your career where you're honoring yourself over pretty much everything. And I think that that's a really great place to be as an artist when you're creating from a place that feels deeply personal and like it's honoring your interest and your, I guess, your message for the world. So I have one final question for all of you. Earlier, we discussed the start of your time at Berklee, which is a particularly vulnerable time. I'm wondering if we can travel back in time once more, but this time to the you that you were right after leaving Berklee. If you could go back to that version of yourself, what advice would you give yourself? Or I guess, what would you just say?
Actually, I think I told you this today. You should just unlearn. That's the word. Desaprender.
Unlearn, yeah.
Unlearn everything you learned.
For sure. Yeah.
That's great.
Because, yeah, like, we were talking, you said something great today about, I'm talking about Jeremy, because you tend to just be very mathematical after, right? Because you have all of these tools, which of course are amazing, but then you have to, what I said at the beginning, you have to connect with people. And you also mentioned that, Isaac, like now in New York, for example, like you were listening to music that you were doing here and you wrote a song, for example, and he was saying, oh, then I listened to it and I was like, oh, that flute solo for 3 minutes is so unnecessary, stuff that, then you're like, okay, that was great. And I think Berklee is great for that, or any university, I guess, if you take advantage of it to explore and just do everything you can to make all of the mistakes, to play all kind of music and learn everything you can. But then I think I would have told myself, dude, you don't have to do, that's not necessary for the sake of the music and for if you really want to connect with people, what you're doing is not necessary, but of course you're excited. You want to show off everything you learned. But yeah, I think it would be that. Unlearn everything.
I love that. That you should
take that with a grain of salt, obviously.
You're right. That when we get our diplomas on stage, you should open it to see text that just says, please unlearn all that you've learned. I think you've made a great point. I think that for many musicians that go through formal education, there is that point where you learn how to take a 3-minute flute solo. And then I think maturing as a musician is realizing that you could do the same in 30 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah, right, of course.
Yeah. I agree. Though the concept of unlearning everything you just learned needs to be unpacked a little bit, because we don't want to say to people that 4 years of your intellectual investment in music now just wasted away and throw it in the trash. Yeah. But I do agree with Nella in the fact that there is a process of here's the thing. The best way that I can explain it, and you're gonna have to forgive me, right? But it's through the greatest book ever, the Bible. Here's what I think. 1 Corinthians chapter 8. The Apostle Paul, the intellectual of all intellectuals, 5 languages, a Roman citizen, Jewish citizen. He says, we know that we all possess knowledge, but knowledge puffs up while love builds up. Those who think they know something, they do not yet know as they ought to know. I think that explains it for me way better than I could ever explain it. Looking back to that last semester in Berklee, I would agree with Nella 100% in the fact that when we worship what we know, we become arrogant, and the music suffers because music is fueled by love. And when you love your own knowledge more than you love people, then your creative process can go into a bit of a doubt. And that's when people quit music because how could you ever have a career in something that you don't love? So knowledge puffs up. That means knowledge builds up an ego. I know so much, so I'm the best. Love builds. And I think it takes a tremendous humility to, like my sister here said, to unlearn certain things, not with the purpose of throwing them away, but with the purpose of sifting through what is necessary and what is not. We don't always have in a conversation to say everything we ever, listening is also part of the conversation, but it's in the same way with music. And so, that last semester, that was your question, right? Traveling to the last semester, right?
Yeah, and I think you make an excellent point. I think we don't often talk about what a challenge and a skill it is to retain your curiosity for music after spending so much time studying it. But, I love that, Jeremy. If you could travel back in time to your younger self, you would quote the Bible, which is very cinematic of you. Very, very epic. How about you, Isaac?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think mainly echoing what Nella and Jeremy just said, because also all the knowledge that you get here in 4 years is not gonna go away. You know what I mean? It's not gonna go away if you try to reconnect with that person that you were before you got all this formal education, because that's where the love for music is really, that's where the curiosity is. What is this sound that's in my head, or this sound that I'm hearing, before you get to decipher it, before you get to desmenuzar.
It's a great word, bro.
Shred.
Shred, sure.
Yeah. Your hands. Right?
Yeah.
Tear apart.
ASMR moment.
Yeah.
Before you get to, really understand what that is, all you have for sound and music is love, and that's what really drives you to then go to pursue a formal education in music. And it's just so hard to think of what else I could tell myself in that time, other than when you go out into the real world, don't be expecting that everything is gonna be exactly like it was in the ensemble room, because it's not gonna be. And then if you walk into a real world ensemble room with those expectations, you're gonna be frustrated, or you're gonna be or you're gonna walk out of the room a little confused as to what did you do wrong, or why did these people not understand what I was trying to say if I use all the correct technicalities. You know what I mean? It's a lot of the, at least for me, a lot of the artists that I like the most, they don't necessarily had a formal education in music. They had an approach that was simply like channeled through love and curiosity. And so I guess, I would say just don't lose the curiosity. Don't, because this is a job, and at Berklee, we are trained a lot of the times to be workers of this industry that is music. Sure, there's romantic parts of it. There's like beautiful parts of it that they also teach you. But to the core is like you're coming here to learn how to be a worker in this industry so that you can make a living out of it, right? And that sometimes can tame the curiosity a little bit, because then you're like, oh, well, I'm curious about this, but I already learned that it's actually not that way, it's this way. Mm-hmm. And then you go and meet somebody who's been making music their whole life and they're good at it and they're successful and they have a completely different approach to that you learn. And so being open to keep both the toolkit that you learn here and the empirical and curious and just genuinely unaware of all the technicalities. I think trying to get a balance between those things, it's important.
Thank you so much, all of you, for joining me.
Thank you.
And this is the first time that we're meeting, but I feel like as Berklee alums, we can relate so deeply from both our time here and our time in the industry since. So thank you so much, Jeremy, Nella, and Isaac.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Hola, I'm Luis Angel. I'm from Mexico. I'm a composition student.
Hey everyone, I'm Denny. I'm from Bulgaria and I'm a music business and management student. SOMOS Latinx is a new initiative that is all about supporting students and building a strong foundation. We covered academic prep, explored Latinx and Hispanic culture, and learned how to navigate Berklee.
It's a celebration of Latinx and Hispanic heritage in the arts, making Berklee richer and more inclusive.
Programs like this thrive thanks to the support of our generous donors. You can be a part of this too by making a gift of any size at berklee.edu/giving. Your support creates unforgettable experiences for us students and makes our journey through Berklee truly amazing. So don't forget to visit berklee.edu/giving.
All right, y'all. So we are back, and you just listened to Magdalena's interview with the SOMOS Latinx alums, and that was our new commercial that you just listened to. Boss, what did you think of it?
I loved it. I thought that, first of all, whenever I get a chance to listen to some sort of a podcast interview with Magdalena, it always brightens my day. But I loved that a theme that has been kind of circling around me today is people coming back to their roots. I think it's a very fortunate thing as a white man from South Boston. I don't know that I have my own kind of musical cultural roots. I grew up around a lot of bagpipe music, I'll tell you that much. But I don't know that makes me feel like I'm culturally grounded. And I think that that's the purpose with SOMOS, is to bring that to the students who are just starting out.
I thought that was really cool how they just kind of related their own personal backgrounds and how they brought their own native homes to Berklee. And I thought it was also cool to hear how they had to adjust to the crazy winters in Boston. As you know, it can get super cold, and the blizzards that we have, and then also the expensive rent. It was just cool to hear them connect on these different aspects and themes, and just to see how they was able to survive it.
Yeah, and I would just like to thank Ty-Juana Flores for taking the time to meet with us and give us a little more insight into the SOMOS Latinx program. Ty-Juana will be coming back up at another point later this season. But first, Jaquel, back to the new commercial. How did you like those students?
Well, I'm super thankful that they kind of took that off our plate. They did better than us. That's all I want to say. But
I thought we did great.
But no, shout out to them. They did really good. And it's also really cool to hear from the students, Yeah,
no, they came up with the script and we recorded it. We had a lot of fun. They're great students, and we had a little time at the end. So we did some rapid questions, and let's hear them. What's your name?
Luis.
What semester are you?
Third semester.
What are you studying?
Music composition.
What's your instrument?
Voice.
If you had to plan a dinner party, what 3 guests would you choose?
Ricardo, Leslie, and Andres.
And one more.
My
Me.
mom. Oh, shoot.
Oh, never mind.
Danny.
Okay. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
What's your favorite restaurant on campus?
I would say Shus.
What was your favorite first semester class?
Harmony and Counterpoint.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Denny, what's your name?
Denny,
What semester are you?
third in person, fifth in credits.
Okay, what oh no, now I'm blanking. What are you studying?
Music business and management.
What's your instrument?
Voice.
If you had to plan a dinner party with 3 people, what would you serve?
Can one be dead?
You didn't listen to the question.
What would I serve?
Yes.
A chicken? Everybody loves chicken.
Sounds great. Okay, favorite color?
Red.
Favorite song? Wrong. Favorite movie?
How to Train Your Dragon?
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks, guys. I feel like I've learned a lot about you today. We'll be hearing more about you throughout your Berklee journey.
Thank you.
See you next time, guys. So that's it. A little fun fact is Magdalena had Jaquel's position before Jaquel started. And Jaquel, great things happen to people who have had this position.
My future's looking bright.
It is. So Magdalena actually just had one of her songs premiere on the FX show Reservation Dogs, which you can find on Hulu. And yeah, it's just another great moment to celebrate alumni success.
Enjoy. Have a great day and see you on the next episode.
What you want, what you need, what you love, who you really are. If you dare, if you don't, if you try and you wanna cry. CPR, care and patience, rage and making space for who we